St. Francis worked with those who were outcast in his generation, which was mainly the people with leprosy. But now that there's a big cure for leprosy, we looked around to see what other kind of people are really outcast and no one taking care of them, or on the fringes of society and discriminated against. And of course, when the HIV/AIDS pandemic hit Africa, that was where we saw the most need, and so that's where we went into.
The Franciscan Missionary Sisters for Africa have been working in Kenya for more than 80 years. For the last 30 years, their primary mission is the fight against the plague of the 20th century, AIDS. The sisters organize medical help in self-established hospices as well as private homes. In the face of government ineptitude and a feeble social care system, the Franciscan Missionary Sisters, together with their lay co-workers, are often the only persons who take care of and visit AIDS victims. And the need continues to be enormous. Each day in Kenya, AIDS kills 700 people.
Last year we saw 2,300 patients, I think, we looked after. At the moment we've got 1,400 patients. You see, it's home-based. Most people are sick at home. We only put in the hospice those who cannot be looked after at home, either because there's nobody there or because they've been rejected. It may be that it's a mother with young children and there's nobody else, you know, and they can't manage. Not every day. We can't afford it. Okay, so we go to the natural medicine.
Yeah. So we're going to the natural medicine now, where what they do is they prepare food for people so that if they cannot take ARVs, they can use this.
Sister Gilles, a registered medical practitioner, has, based on many years' research, observation and trials, drawn up a food and medicine program aimed at helping the human organism fight AIDS and strengthening the body's immune system. She uniquely applies locally available natural products. In many cases, natural healing methods are the only ones available, as antiretroviral treatments, ARVs, based on chemically synthesized drugs aimed to destroy HIV, are too expensive and in any case not always available.
It clears out a lot of the virus from the digestive system, which is where they tend to congregate. And people sleep better, eat better, they lose a lot of their symptoms. And for most of them, the CD4 count goes up. The CD4 count is the measure of immunity. So this is the cabbage. They have to cut it very small. And they put it in water, and it ferments. It is this over here. And it stands for 3 days, and then it ferments. It's a bit like eating sauerkraut. This is Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are very high in selenium, and selenium is needed to boost the immune system. And then they have what we call pili pili dawa, which is like a chili sauce, which is garlic and chili and all sorts of things. And that stimulates the appetite, it helps them to sleep, and it also boosts the immune system. The cabbage mallet, which we call it, that destroys harmful bacteria and stimulates the growth of the good bacteria. We started the same time as we started the ARV clinic, because we knew there'd be some people who wouldn't be able to have ARVs, either because their liver was too bad, may have been a bit alcoholic or something like that. People have great hopes. There's ARVs now, and they could get this medicine and they'd be well again. And then they're told, no, they can't have it. It was very, very, very disappointing. We realized ARVs have a limited time span, and they're very toxic drugs. and people do tend to get quite sick with them sometimes. Our aim, as far as possible, is keep people at home, support them at home. The nurses visit the homes. There are 90 voluntary health workers who look after the people in the villages. And we provide them with the medicines, we provide them with this. They come to ARV clinic, they come to the natural medicine clinic, and we provide food for about 130 families every day. So for the ones who really haven't got food and can't manage.
Fighting AIDS and taking care of HIV victims is but one of many activities undertaken by the Franciscan Missionary Sisters. Since they cannot run separate homes for the elderly, homeless and disabled, the sisters invite all the needy to their own convent situated in the centre of the Nairobi slums. Several times during the week, they open their gates to those in need. They provide food, medicine, clothing, as well as a comforting embrace. Just as it is with the victims of AIDS, the sisters give hope to the poorest.
The Cheshire Home. It's also a daycare centre for the aged and also a place for beggars of Nairobi to come and get washed, have a meal. Many of the people who are working here are volunteers, but a lot of them are young people who are looking for school fees. Most of them should have relatives who could take care of them, and that's the African tradition, that you take care of your elderly. They love that. Their children are their social security. So where are the social security for these ones? Where are their family? And the answer most likely is that a lot of them are sick and dying of AIDS or have already died. Old people who come in, drop in at the daycare center are with a child. Well, it isn't their child. It's probably their daughter or son's child, the daughter or son having died, and now the old person is looking after them. So there's really no sector of society that is immune from AIDS. It penetrates everyone, and it has destroyed everybody's life in many ways, because these old people shouldn't have the responsibility of looking after a little child.
Taking care of AIDS patients and the poor, unfortunately, does not eliminate the very cause of the AIDS epidemic. That is why the sisters offer comprehensive educational seminars to the young. Primary aim of these seminars is to prevent further infections, considering 1 in 20 children are infected every year in Kenya.
So you are very good children, I can see that, okay? We're going to go through something today, and the chart is on behind me. So we're going to look at that chart. What is it called? Behavior change process. The behavior change process. What does that mean? What does that mean? Behavior change means what?
The sisters, together with a team of qualified instructors, teach AIDS prevention in local schools. Their foundation is the established Education for Life Behavior Change Program. The program's aim is to guide children and adolescents to personal and spiritual development and teach them the best way of preventing HIV infection.
It must encapsulate the spiritual side, because people cannot change their sexual behaviour unless they are steeped in prayer and in scripture. And the impact seems to be that the children, when they leave the primary school and they meet my facilitators later in secondary schools, they say, "Thank you for helping us to be aware of the dangers of illicit sex."
When we started in Kenya, we were doing a lot of HIV/AIDS awareness, and that included just giving HIV/AIDS information. But we realized that HIV/AIDS information was not enough, because we had nurses and people who were quite informed dying of the infection. And so we learned very early on that we needed to enable people go through changed behavior, since this was the most essential strategy in overcoming the pandemic. And for us to do this, we came up with this process.
We don't stand up and tell them not to engage in sex.